Every single day, somewhere in the world, a perfectly good motorcycle gets abused in the first 30 seconds of being ridden, before the rider even touches the throttle, before they've pulled out of the driveway, before they've done a single thing that anyone would traditionally call riding. The damage is quiet, invisible, and cumulative, and by the time you notice it, your wallet is already crying in the corner. I've made an embarrassing number of these mistakes myself, and today we're going to make sure you don't repeat my sins. Mistake number 1, not checking your controls before you start. Let me paint you a picture. You walk out to the garage, you're excited to ride, the weather is perfect, your gear is on, your coffee is finished, life is good. You hit the starter, the bike fires up, you pull in the clutch, click it into first, release the clutch, roll out of the driveway, reach for the front brake lever, and discover that it has the structural integrity of a wet noodle, and absolutely nothing happens. That is a bad morning. Before you start your motorcycle, every single time, you should be doing a quick sweep of your controls. Squeeze the front brake lever. Does it feel firm and responsive, or does it feel spongy and vague? Tap the rear brake. Any resistance there? Roll the throttle. Does it snap back on its own like it's supposed to, or does it kind of hang there like it forgot what it was doing? Check that the clutch lever pulls smoothly. These are 5 seconds of your life, and they can save you from the kind of morning that ends with a trip to the emergency room, or at minimum, a very embarrassing phone call to your riding buddy explaining why you're not going to make the group ride. Cable-operated throttles, which are still on a lot of bikes, especially anything from before the early 2000s, can develop slack or fray over time. A throttle that sticks open is not a quirky personality trait your bike has developed. It is an emergency waiting to happen. And brake fluid is hygroscopic, meaning it absorbs moisture from the air over time, which degrades its performance and gives you that spongy lever feel. If your front brake feels off, do not ride the bike. Full stop. The habit of checking controls takes approximately the same amount of time as sending one text message, and it is infinitely more useful than whatever you are about to text. Mistake number 2, skipping the visual inspection. Alright, look, I know what some of you are thinking. Carl, I'm just riding to work. I'm not prepping for a MotoGP qualifying lap. I don't need to walk around my bike like I'm a pilot inspecting a 747. Yes, you do. You absolutely do. Because unlike a car, a motorcycle does not have the structural redundancy to forgive you for ignoring a problem. A car can limp along on a slightly flat tire. A motorcycle with a low rear tire on a fast sweeper is a very different and significantly more terrifying situation. Your visual inspection before every ride should cover a handful of basics. Check your tires. You're looking for obvious low pressure, cuts, embedded debris, or anything that doesn't look like it belongs on a tire. Give the wheels a look for cracks or damage. Check underneath the bike for any fresh fluid spots on the ground. Oil, coolant, brake fluid, any of these showing up as a new surprise puddle on your garage floor is your bike's way of sending you a strongly worded letter that you should probably read. Check your chain if you've got one. Is it lubed? Is it at the right tension? A dry chain will wear itself and your sprockets into oblivion in a timeline that will genuinely shock you. Lights. Check your lights. I know it feels silly standing there clicking through your indicators in an empty garage, but riding around with a busted brake light is illegal in most places, and also just a spectacularly bad idea when the pickup truck behind you doesn't know you're slowing down. This whole process, done properly and efficiently, takes maybe 90 seconds to 2 minutes. It is the single highest return on investment of any 2 minutes you will spend in motorcycling. The Hurt Report, which is the landmark motorcycle safety study from 1981 that every rider should at least be aware of, found that mechanical failure played a role in a meaningful percentage of motorcycle accidents. Don't be that statistic. Look at your bike before you get on it. Mistake number 3, choking a fuel-injected bike. This one is for the folks who learned to ride on an older carbureted machine and then made the jump to a modern fuel-injected motorcycle without fully updating their mental software. And there is no shame in this. I have seen it happen to smart people, experienced people, people who absolutely should have known better. Here's the situation. On carbureted bikes, especially anything from the 80s and 90s, you needed to use the choke on a cold start. The choke restricted airflow to richen up the fuel mixture because cold engines need more fuel to start and run properly. It was a real thing you had to do, And if you forgot to turn the choke off after the engine warmed up, your bike would run like garbage and you'd spend 20 minutes convinced something was catastrophically wrong before your more experienced riding buddy started laughing at you. Not that this happened to me. Moving on. Fuel-injected motorcycles do not have a choke. They have sensors. They have oxygen sensors, and temperature sensors, and throttle position sensors, and about 40 other sensors that together paint a real-time picture of exactly what the engine needs at any given moment. The ECU reads all of that data and adjusts the fuel mixture automatically. It does the choke's job better than you ever could manually without you having to think about it at all. What this means practically is that when you start a modern fuel-injected motorcycle cold, you just start it. You don't need to do anything special. You don't need to find the choke because there isn't one. You don't need to fiddle with anything. Just turn the key, hit the starter, let the bike do its thing. Where people get into trouble is when they start messing with the throttle during a cold start trying to help the bike along. Cracking the throttle on a cold fuel-injected engine during startup can actually flood the engine or mess with the fueling in ways that make starting harder, not easier. The bike is doing complicated math in the background, and you just walked into the middle of that equation and started yelling numbers. Just leave it alone. Trust the technology. It's smarter than both of us. Mistake number 4. Cranking a cold engine without letting it warm up. Okay, so this one is nuanced, and I want to be careful here because there's a version of this mistake, and there's also the overcorrection to this mistake, which is its own mistake, and we'll get there in about 60 seconds. When your engine has been sitting, especially overnight in cooler temperatures, the oil has drained down from the upper parts of the engine and is sitting in the sump at the bottom. The oil passages are empty. The tolerances between metal components, your piston rings, your cam lobes, your bearings, all of that, they're tighter when cold because metal contracts in lower temperatures. Your oil is also thicker when cold, meaning it doesn't flow and circulate as quickly. What this means is that the first moments after you start a cold engine are the moments when wear is happening at an accelerated rate compared to a fully warmed up engine running at proper operating temperature. This is just physics. This is not an opinion. The components are moving against each other with less lubrication and tighter clearances than they were designed to operate at continuously. So what should you do? Start the bike and let it idle for a short period. Not forever. Not while you go back inside and make another cup of coffee. Just long enough for the oil to circulate, the temperature gauge to show some movement, and the idle speed to come down from its cold start elevated RPM to something more normal. On most bikes, this is somewhere in the neighborhood of 1 to 2 minutes depending on ambient temperature. In genuinely cold weather, maybe a little longer. Then here's the K-bit that a lot of people miss. Even after you start riding, take it easy for the first few miles. Don't go pinning the throttle at every light. Don't take the first corner of your ride at 9/10. Let the engine, the tires, and frankly your own brain all come up to operating temperature together. A cold tire is a slippery tire. And a cold rider who hasn't woken their spatial awareness up yet is also a liability. Warm up the whole system, not just the engine. Mistake number 5. Overwarming the engine. Here it is, the overcorrection I promised you. There is a contingent of riders, and I have been one of them at various points in my life, who let their bike idle in the driveway for so long that their neighbors start wondering if they're planning to ride the motorcycle or just watch it sit there running while the exhaust note slowly drives everyone insane. 5 minutes of idling. 10 minutes of idling. Some people I've talked to genuinely let their bike idle for 15 or 20 minutes before they ride. And I understand the impulse. You love your bike. You want it to be happy and warm before you ask anything of it. That's genuinely sweet. It's also unnecessary, and it's actually bad for the engine. Here's why. Modern motorcycle engines, whether they're air-cooled, oil-cooled, or liquid-cooled, are designed to reach operating temperature under load. Idling, by definition, is not load. An engine idling in your driveway is warming up slower than it would if you just rode it gently. Beyond that, prolonged idling on air-cooled bikes specifically can cause uneven heating because you don't have the airflow moving over the fins that you'd get while riding. You can also wash down the cylinder walls with excess fuel during extended cold idling on carbureted bikes, which is just as bad as it sounds. The sweet spot, and I want you to tattoo this on your brain, is 1 to 2 minutes of idle time and then gentle riding to finish the warm-up process. That's it. You do not need to stand in your driveway like a statue watching your temperature gauge for half an hour. Go ride the bike. Gently. That's how it warms up properly. Your neighbors will also be deeply relieved. Mistake number 6. Revving a cold engine into the stratosphere. Oh, this one right here. We have all seen this person, maybe in a parking lot, maybe at a gas station, maybe at a light. Cold engine, just started, hasn't been running for more than 30 seconds. And suddenly the rider is just absolutely ripping the throttle like they're trying to communicate something to an alien civilization via horsepower, just bouncing off the rev limiter repeatedly. Brr-ea-a-p. Brr-a-a-p. Brah. Sometimes this is showing off. Sometimes this is a misguided warm-up strategy. Sometimes this person just really likes the noise their bike makes, and honestly, I can sympathize with that last one more than I'd like to admit. But here's what's actually happening inside that engine while this is going on. Remember what we talked about in the last point. Cold oil is thicker and slower to circulate. Cold metal has tighter clearances. Now you are introducing rapid high-stress acceleration and deceleration cycles into an engine that hasn't had time to properly lubricate itself or reach the temperatures it needs to handle that kind of stress gracefully. You are wearing your engine, meaningfully, every single time you do this. Piston rings, cam lobes, rod bearings, valve train components, all of these are experiencing friction they are not meant to experience at high RPM before the oil has properly coated and protected them. This is the kind of damage that doesn't announce itself all at once. It accumulates. It shortens engine life by miles and years, and eventually shows up as an oil consumption issue or an engine noise or a rebuild that costs more than some bikes are worth. Let the engine idle up. Keep the RPMs low and the throttle gentle until your temperature gauge is in the normal range. Then go nuts. I mean, within the limits of local traffic laws, which I'm sure you always respect. Absolutely. Mistake number 7. Starting in gear. Without the clutch pulled. Alright, this one is the classic beginner moment that has launched approximately 1 million motorcycles into garage walls, garden fences, parked cars, and one very memorable incident that a friend of mine still refuses to discuss publicly. You start the bike in gear without pulling the clutch in. The bike lurches forward with a violence that is frankly impressive for something that was just sitting there. You either fall off immediately, grab a fistful of front brake and save it, or you go somewhere you did not intend to go. None of these outcomes are great. Modern bikes have a clutch safety switch that is supposed to prevent exactly this from happening. If the bike is in gear and the clutch is not pulled in, the bike will not start. This is a good system, and it has saved a lot of garage walls. However, and this is a meaningful however, those switches can fail. They can be bypassed. Older bikes don't always have them. And if you've got any kind of aftermarket work done on your bike's electrical system, there's a chance that safety switch is not functioning the way it should be. The correct habit, the one you should build into your muscle memory until you do it without thinking, is this. Every single time you start the bike, regardless of whether you think it's in neutral, pull the clutch in before you hit the starter. Every time. Without exception. It takes zero additional effort. It adds zero time to your startup process. And it means that if you are actually in gear without realizing it, the bike stays exactly where it is instead of trying to visit your neighbor's rose garden. Check for neutral if you want to. But pull the clutch in first. Always. Mistake number 8. Ignoring warning lights. Let me describe something that will be deeply relatable to some of you, and you know who you are. Warning light comes on. You look at it. You think about it for a second. The bike is still running fine. Everything feels normal. The light is probably just a sensor thing. You've seen this light before. It went away last time on its own. You'll look it up later. You've been meaning to look it up. You'll definitely look it up. 3 weeks later, the light is still on. You've completely stopped seeing it. It's just part of the dashboard now. It's decor. I am not here to make you feel bad. I'm here to tell you that this approach is going to cost you money and possibly your safety. Modern motorcycles have pretty sophisticated diagnostic systems, and warning lights are how they communicate with you. Your check engine light, your ABS warning light, your oil pressure light, your temperature warning, these are not decorative. They are telling you something specific is wrong or outside of normal operating parameters. An oil pressure warning light that you ignore can mean you're running your engine with insufficient lubrication. That is an engine-destroying situation that can go from warning light to catastrophic failure faster than you'd think. An ABS light means your ABS might not function in an emergency braking situation, which you will only discover at the worst possible moment. A temperature warning means your engine is getting hot in a way it is not supposed to be getting hot. Look up the warning lights for your specific bike. Most owner's manuals have a whole section dedicated to this. Your owner's manual, by the way, is an incredible document that surprisingly few riders have actually read. I know. It's not exactly a page-turner, but it will tell you exactly what every light on your dash means and what you should do about it, which is information that turns out to be quite useful when one of those lights turns on. Do not ignore the lights. The lights are trying to help you. Mistake number 9, starting with the kickstand down. Okay, so at this point you might be thinking, Carl, surely everyone knows not to ride off with their kickstand down. That's like the most basic possible thing. How is this on the list? And you would think that. And you would be wrong in a way that is both statistically supported and personally witnessed by me on more than one occasion. Most modern motorcycles have a kickstand safety switch, similar to the clutch safety switch we talked about. If the kickstand is down and you put the bike in gear, the engine will cut out. This is a lovely feature that has saved countless people from a very embarrassing and potentially catastrophic low side when the kickstand digs into the pavement at the first turn. But again, switches fail. Older bikes don't always have this. Bikes that have had electrical work done may have this bypassed. And there is a specific flavor of cognitive failure that happens when you're in a hurry or distracted or both, where your brain simply does not register that the kickstand is still down, even though your eyes are technically looking directly at it. The fix is simple and elegant and costs you nothing. Make it part of your departure ritual to physically look at the kickstand and confirm it's up before you move anywhere. Not feel it with your foot. Not assume it's up because you probably put it up. Look at it. Visually confirm, then go. Beyond the mechanical safety issue, there's also the simple reality that riding off with your kickstand down and catching it in a turn is the kind of story that follows you in a riding group for years. Like years. Your buddy will bring it up at every group ride for the rest of your mutual lives. Some things are worse than crashing. This is one of them. Mistake number 10, bad battery habits. We've reached the final mistake, and it's a big one because it affects every single item on this list. If your battery is not healthy, none of the above matters because the bike is not starting in the first place, and you're going to find that out in the most inconvenient location possible. Motorcycle batteries are smaller and have less reserve capacity than car batteries. They are more sensitive to being run down, more sensitive to extended periods without use, and more sensitive to temperature extremes. A motorcycle battery that has been deeply discharged even once can have its lifespan meaningfully shortened. A motorcycle battery that sits discharged for months over winter will frequently not recover at all. Here are the habits that will save your battery and, by extension, your sanity. Get a battery tender or trickle charger and use it whenever the bike is sitting for more than a week or two. These things cost next to nothing, and they maintain the battery at an optimal charge level without overcharging it. They are the single best cheap investment in motorcycle ownership, and I cannot understand why more people don't have them. I want to go door to door in every neighborhood handing them out like pamphlets. Know how old your battery is. Motorcycle batteries typically last somewhere in the range of 3 to 5 years, depending on how well they're maintained. If your battery is approaching or past that age range, get it tested. Most motorcycle shops will test a battery for free. Replacing a battery on your own timeline when you know it's getting old is a dramatically better experience than replacing it on the side of a road in the rain because it chose that exact moment to give up. Also, and this is a habit thing, not a product thing, short rides are hard on batteries. If your typical ride is 15 minutes of city commuting and that's it, your battery may not be getting fully recharged by the alternator before you park up again. Over time, this results in chronically undercharged batteries that die early. Either take a longer ride periodically or use that battery tender. Both work. A dead battery also means your safety systems are compromised. No ABS. Potentially no fuel injection. Definitely no warning lights to tell you something is wrong because there is no power to run the warning lights that are telling you there's no power. It's a very unsatisfying circle. Take care of your battery. All right? That's 10 mistakes. 10 things you should never do when starting your motorcycle, and more importantly, 10 habits you should build to replace them. Some of these were probably things you already knew and just needed to be reminded of. Some of them might be genuinely new information. And if at least one of them made you think, oh, I've definitely done that, then this video did exactly what it was supposed to do. Look, none of us started riding and immediately did everything right. That's not how motorcycling works. That's not how anything works. You learn, you build habits, you occasionally do something embarrassing that your riding group will bring up at every single opportunity for the next decade, and you get better. That's the whole journey. If you found this useful, smash the like button, leave a comment down below telling me which of these mistakes you've made. I promise I'm not going to judge you. I made at least 6 of them. We're all in this together. If you want to hang out with a community of riders and people who want to be riders and people who are just generally curious about motorcycles, we've got a Discord server with thousands of members, and I'm on there pretty much every day. Link is down below. And if you want to throw some money at high-fashion motorcycle content creator merchandise and also enter to win a bike at the same time, check out carlnewmerch.com, where every dollar you spend is an entry. Ride safe, look at your kickstand. And for the love of everything, stop revving cold engines. I'll see you in the next one.